Assalamu alaikum and welcome everyone. Over the past year, throughout the pandemic, ISNA has been working hard to provide quality programming for its constituents through our series of online webinars. We continue to do so with this special session on business success and social good with leading Muslim entrepreneurs and inventors. This webinar will educate and inspire upcoming Muslim business leaders to develop new skills and benefit from tremendous opportunities in today's economy. Speakers will talk about how businesses can leverage their resources and knowledge to bring about positive change in the society while also focusing on their corporate goals. Our first speaker tonight is Dr. M. Yaqub Mirza. Dr. Yaqub Mirza is the President and CEO of Sterling Management Group, Chairman of the Board of Trustees of Amana Mutual Funds, member of the Board of Directors at the University Islamic Financial Corporation, member of the Board of Trustees at George Mason University Foundation, member of the Board of Trustees of Shenandoah University, and advisor to the Byrd School of Business at Shenandoah University. He is also a member of the Council of Advisors Muslim Philanthropy Initiative at Lilly Family School of Philanthropy at Indiana University. He is the author most recently of 5 Pillars of Prosperity, Essentials of Faith-Based Wealth Building. He holds an MSc from the University of Karachi and a PhD in physics and a master's in teaching sciences from the University of Texas at Dallas. Please welcome Dr. M. Yaqub Mirza.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you so much for this opportunity to speak to you. I wish to talk about social entrepreneurship, but before I do that, let me define entrepreneurship, which is taking a risk and come up with an innovative idea. In other words, the world will be run differently with this new idea, technique, or invention. With the development of information technology and the growth of internet as marketplace, it is becoming easier for more people to become entrepreneurs. As this entrepreneurial trend grows, it is essential that people of faith take leadership role as entrepreneurs. The world needs business owners who can ensure the call of God as they help build and lead society through faith-based businesses. The combination of faith and entrepreneurship has been modeled in Islam from its very beginning. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ himself was an influential and successful businessman and a trader. He was known for always charging fair prices and never holding any goods. Because of this, the people of Makkah dubbed him Al-Sadiq and Al-Amin, the truthful and the trustworthy. Abdurrahman bin Auf, an early believer and companion of the Prophet, was born in Makkah and became a Muslim when he was 30 years old. He then migrated from Makkah to Medina, where he started his business and soon became the wealthiest merchant in Medina. Uthman bin Affan, the third caliph, learned to read and write at an early age, and as a young man became a successful merchant. His generosity had no limits. On various occasions, he spent a great portion of his wealth for the welfare of the Muslims, for charity, and for equipping the Muslim armies. That is why he came to be known as Ghani, meaning generous. Imam Abu Hanifa, founder of the Hanafi school of thought, was born into a family of tradesmen. He earned his living through trade and used his earnings to meet the needs of his students. He gave much to charity. Every Friday, he would distribute 20 gold coins to the poor for the benefit of his parents' soul. The Bible also describes several entrepreneurs, including Peter, Paul, and Job. Peter was a commercial fisherman in partnership with his brother Andrew. Paul was the sole proprietor of a tent-making business. And Job was an industrious farmer who owned 7,000 sheep, 3,000 camels, 500 oxen, and 500 donkeys, leading to his launching business in wool, clothing, freight hauling, and dairy. One of the reasons the world needs people of faith in business is because their faith guides their ethics. The business practices of Muslim entrepreneurs must be reproach above reproach because they must be above reproach because they are obliged to follow the business principles outlined in Quran. That is to say, do not engage in bribery or dishonesty. Deal justly in business or trade. Document and witness agreements. Do not engage in fraud or deception of mismeasurement. Give everyone his due share. Do not engage in hoarding or exploitation. Be kind. The Prophet ﷺ emphasized ethics in business. He urged Muslims to be truthful in all business dealings, to honor their promises, to negotiate honestly, and not try to lower the value of goods by berating another's merchandise, nor inflate the value of their own goods they exaggerated through exaggerated claims. He told Muslim entrepreneurs not to avoid payments they owe, and when others owe them, to not make it difficult for debtors to pay them. Now, let's briefly talk about social entrepreneurship. Although many of the businesses I mentioned, they have already been used for social purposes. An aspect of entrepreneurship that may be a good fit for people of faith is social entrepreneurship. In this form of entrepreneurship, which is a growing movement worldwide, a for-profit venture exists to generate income for a social purpose. For example, an independent for-profit venture might donate its profit to a charity, or a company or other large enterprise might hire less privileged unemployed workers to provide services or create a product. Social entrepreneurship often takes on society's most pressing problems. They may serve as change agents. They may serve as change agents for the masses, exploiting opportunities that others may miss, improve systems, and develop creative, scalable solutions that improve society. Recent examples of social entrepreneurships are Muhammad Yunus, the founder of Grameen Bank, Bangladesh, a microfinance organization and community development bank that provides small loans to poor, and Istawan Abu Harwet, whose mission is to aid gypsy children in Hungary in getting education while earning money. Then for social entrepreneurship such as Muhammad Baha Abba, who has resurrected a form of pottery used in ancient Egypt that allows his people to keep their food fresh in the harsh climate of Nigeria. And Rafael Alvarez, who founded Genesee Works, an organization that helps American youth extend their outlook beyond high school graduation and training them in highly skilled jobs. Lastly, from my experience, the key to successful entrepreneurship is to deal with people like a family, with respect and like you want to be treated. That, in my opinion, is the key to success. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed listening. And if you like it, just please play for me. And I hope to talk to you soon. some time. Thank you so much. Assalamu alaikum.
Our next two speakers are Farouk Osman and Frank Rudolph. More than half of the peritoneal dialysis machines sold in the USA have some sort of contribution from Farouk. In addition to several patents to his credit, Farouk, a Harvard graduate, was part of the teams that developed the first artificial pancreas, 3 peritoneal dialysis, and now the fourth, and 8 other medical devices that received FDA approval. Frank Rudolph has worked 30 plus years in electrical and electronic design and embedded software, holds a PhD in electrical and computer engineering, a BS in mechanical engineering, and is an affiliate professor of ECE at the University of New Hampshire. Farouk and Frank collaborated on the world's largest flywheel energy storage plants, currently operating in Pennsylvania and New York. Please welcome Farouk and Frank.
So I would like to say thank you to Mr. Mukhtar Ahmed and Azhar Aziz for inviting, and especially for ISNA to inviting me and Frank Rudolph to talk about our journey of bionics. What we are talking about is a bloodless dialysis machine for millions of people who are dying without access to this technology. Technology does exist, but unfortunately it's so expensive and it's not even available in many countries. And that's where our story started. And I would like to say thank you to Frank for joining me on this call.
Assalamu alaikum, Farouk. It's my pleasure to be with you today. And thank you, ladies and gentlemen of ISNA. It's a great honor to be able to speak to you today.
Thank you. Frank's quick, humble introduction is he has a PhD in electronics. He can fly planes. He can do a lot of stuff. Frank and I, Frank, tell where we met and where the story started.
Well, this goes way back because I've been a practicing engineer for about 40 years. I've been licensed and registered as a professional engineer in New Hampshire since 1992 when I received my PhD in electrical and computer engineering. And I've worked in many different industries, and anyone who reads my resume would come to the conclusion that, well, you've had a successful career. But I've always wanted to do more than just achieve financial and professional success. It's always been a big goal of mine to leave a mark behind when I leave this planet. So when I heard from Farouk a while back, I got the idea that maybe, well, here was my big chance to not just leave a mark, but to leave one with international consequences. So back in 2017, my friend Farouk called me and he explained to me that over 8 million people worldwide who are kidney patients are dying for the simple reason that inexpensive and well-known technologies are simply not made available to them. And I thought, 8 million people, that's a pretty significant figure. So when he told me this, I was saddened. Then he told me, oh, he's planning to leave his lucrative job and expensive home in the Boston suburbs to move back to Pakistan to start a new company in order to take this problem on face to face. I was intrigued when he told me that that it was personal to him and that he had lost 3 family members because they could not get access to a technology that in the US we take for granted and we don't even have to pay for when we get this treatment. I was horrified. And then when he explained the entire process of how he planned to go back to Pakistan and start this company in a manner that would allow him to do it uh, with his own savings, well, I was sold, and I was in from day one. So since then, I've visited Pakistan. I've seen first person just how much progress we've been able to make with really very little investment compared to the typical investment that's made in a medical device company in the United States. And frankly, it's really overwhelming. And I know that the work that we've done now has, even though we're just getting started here, 3 years since I first talked to Farouk about this, but we're already saving lives. Our machines are now functional and they're being used in hospitals in Pakistan now. And there are people who are now living who would otherwise be dead if it were not for us. So I know the mark will be made. And right now we've just started the first little scratch of that mark. And all we need now to make that mark a reality for those 8 million people that are dying every year is to simply continue with the process and raise enough funds so that we can make this a truly international enterprise. And I know, from what I know about Farouk and the people around him and the people that he has hired, that we're not in this for the money. We're in this to make the world a better place, because I know where Farouk's heart is. Your turn, Farouk.
Thank you, Frank. So I can tell you a few things where things are important. So I was in Boston area. Life was perfect. 1.5 acre lot, convertible sports cars, and 2 daughters, and all that stuff. And one day I couldn't buy an insulin pump for my own mother. She was visiting from Pakistan into Boston area, and the company said because she lives in Pakistan, I cannot pay and buy it for her. And then there were multiple cases where I used to have these kidney dialysis machines around my house because I was working on the innovation of those machines. And I've done many for many other companies, but I couldn't pay $20,000 and ship it to Pakistan, and country of 220 million. Pakistan do not have a single bloodless dialysis machine. And that was astonishing. And we were at funeral one after another. And that's where my wife and I talked about it. We said, we need to get something done, and not only make our own company, make our own products, but we also have to make the product a lot more affordable, a lot more lower priced, which is affordable by the masses. So instead of $20,000 or $25,000, why can't we make this machine for $1,000, $2,000, or $5,000 price range? So that's what we started working on. So let me show you a video, and it's not about just Pakistan, or it's also about American problem. It's also Australian problem. We have kidney issues all over the world. I will play a small clip, and then you will see what the problem is. So to cover those fronts, let me share you some interesting views. So here we are, and I hope you can see this. I will get this out of the way and do this. Oh, sorry. And share.
Do you ever worry while drinking water? Strange question, huh? Well, I have to worry.
You know, people wait for the weekend so they can party or travel. I have to wait for dialysis day, for needle day.
You have to constantly change your environment from a home, warm, cozy, comfortable, familiar environment to a hospital where you have to become mechanical.
I can tell you it was so difficult to see my father in that position.
Going to the hospital 3 times a week, just for dialysis? I'm suffering. My family's suffering, my work is suffering, my friends don't even bother asking.
I'm beginning to think at my age, I really don't want to go to a hospital every other day.
Being hooked to a machine for hours is not fun.
It's hard.
If you can drink that glass of water without worrying, 8 million people can't. They need a machine. Can't dialysis be bloodless?
I met Farouk a little while ago, and he was telling me about his plans to develop a peritoneal dialysis machine, and I was sort of interested. And there's a higher purpose to it. There's people literally dying because they don't have access to this kind of technology. So that's why I'm here.
Get treated at home, while we sleep.
We invented phones, we invented cars. It's 2021. Can I have my bloodless dialysis machine, which is cheap?
Can new technology reduce our pain? If I had my little machine in my suitcase, I could do it whenever I needed it.
We need bloodless dialysis at home.
So this is, I would like to take a pause. So for example, if you can drink this water and go and pee, you are so lucky. Let me tell you, people that we see that their kidneys don't work, the water can't get out of your body. It's a nightmare to get that water out of the way. There's the two ways to get it out of the way. One is called hemodialysis, where you put a needle in there and run through the machine and all that stuff. It's painful, all that stuff. First thing I would like to say, anybody who's watching this video, take care of your kidneys. Please, for God's sake, take care of your kidneys. Because reduce your salt, reduce sugar intake, take care of your diabetes, take care of hypertension, because when your kidneys fail, you don't want to be our customer. I can trust me. So that is more important than our ability to put this machine. Once we put this machine, half the battle is lost. Save your kidneys, save your health. And but just try to limit the salt intake, sugar intake, anything. That said, getting back to our own details here. So apart from this, what I wanted to cover a little bit of a few slides here is restarting. I need to go to the next slide. So here it is. So we talked about millions of people needed. We spent a lot more in dialysis in US than anything else. And everybody was working on 23% of the people who have dialysis machines. And Frank and I, we sat together. He said, what about those 76% people who don't have access to dialysis? Somebody has to work for those people, and we will work for those people. And once we can sell and make machine for them, we can bring that to US, Canada, England, Australia, and burden of healthcare cost is where we can make a dent, because whatever we can make for developing world would reduce the cost into developing countries. And in America, either we talk about Obamacare or anti-Obamacare, or England, we talk about Canada, healthcare costs. It's just biggest burden on our Western economies. So numbers are big. It's billions of dollars of issue. And unfortunately, the last line is globally, it's growing from 5 to 7%, which is itself the problem. So my quick introduction is I have been doing dialysis machine for most of my life. I have been doing drug delivery system, cancer drug delivery systems, schizophrenia, dialysis machines, also stuff. And why I'm doing it, I already mentioned this to you, that I lost loved ones, I lost friends, family members, because this technology didn't exist there at all. So now this was my number one squad, my wife and my two daughters. And one of this convertible cars is also sold into this company. And a lot of stuff we have already invested, but I'm so happy to do that, because I just don't want it to be live like another American dream where you die in America and don't have any impact, just have some bigger property and some bank account behind you. So Frank said, come on, you're an idiot. You need a best mechanical engineer. And let's bring Mike in there. I said, okay, you're right, Frank. We need to bring in Michael Wallards. We brought in Mike. Mike is one of the finest mechanical engineers I have ever seen. MIT grad, many medical devices. So, but we don't have money to pay these friends. And there's a tip. So if you don't have money, give them partnership, give them future promise. So, and that's what we are, years and years without salaries, me, Frank, Mike, and other partners. So partnership or equity into the company is a way to get people in. So one of our biggest assets is we build a team. Our team is about 50 people. 40 of them are in Pakistan, 10 of them are in US, and we have experts in almost every single field: mechanical, electrical, plastics, all sorts of stuff. And this is the full slide of the team. And we left side is extremely old technology. Right side is all empty that we developed. I will skip all this technology's details for maybe a different day. So, but this was the happy day when Frank Rudolph came to Pakistan, and we met Pakistan Kidney and Liver Institute, and then we met Fatima Memorial Hospital, and this is the Bahria Hospital where we did our first patient, March 18, 2020. 2020. This was the happiest day of my life. And going from an inception concept paper to the first patient was one of the biggest achievement I wanted to achieve. I was so happy for that. And then it was all over the media. Fawad Chaudhry tweeting and IT Ministry tweeting and Dawn News to Express to 24. They were all trying to get our attention. But the most painful thing is today is 10% of people who need dialysis in Pakistan, they get dialysis, 90% die. So this is, and people who get dialysis out of those 10%, 72% of them get hepatitis C from the center. So we signed up some institutions. Our factory is up and coming. So this is what we are building in Lahore as our first factory produce these machines. This is injection molding machines, tube extractions, all the stuff. This we need to get a crane to get this moved because a couple of ton heavy machines. So this was our first target. Pakistan, India, Bangladesh, and Afghanistan and Middle East, 2.6 million patients need these machines right there. And let's talk about West. West is on our radar very heavily. Why? Because the last 30 years, US was trained to do hemodialysis in centers, and those people hate those centers, and it's very expensive. So we are changing the future. Future is coming this way. And number one is building better technology that we talked about. Second is government is right behind us. So American government has passed a lot of executive orders and stuff that they want to move 80% of their patients to home treatment, which is kind of what we want. And COVID shift a lot of software engineers are working from home. So they're saying, why don't we treat patients at home? So that's another area where market is changing in US, and we will be saving billions and the billions of dollars of burden of healthcare by maintaining those centers and all that stuff. So I show this picture to a lot of doctors and say, do you remember this phone when you came to America? They say, yes. I say, where are those phones? They say, I don't know. I said, this is how technology changes, and we will change the way things getting done, and we will revolutionize and disrupt. So people will get treated at home, as I said. And so another thing, CVS is getting into this too. Another thing is, this is how we treat. We put in some fluid into your belly area, and then we drain it out. So there's no blood involved. And it's far less expensive, and it's needleless. It's completely needleless treatment, and that's where I would like to take a pause here, and get back to the journey. So journey to get this to the point where we are treating first patient and all that stuff has been never easy. No journey is ever easy. Me and my wife and my kids are on the road right now. I'm in Chicago. Last month we were in Dallas, and we are spending 6 months to 8 months in Lahore, and the New Hampshire, which was our home, haven't been there for last 4 years. And my wife is homeschooling my kids. They are next door in the hotel right now, locked into that room to record this video. So you have to be willing to make compromises. You have to be willing to make big decisions. You have to be willing to take on the big gorillas out there, the status quo. You have to have friends like Frank, who has depth of knowledge. Find those friends, gurus who tell you when you're wrong, and then listen to them. And you may not agree to them all the time. And now we are not on the success in terms of business yet, but we are in terms of success that a nephrology clinic is using our machine, then saving lives. So I can give you one example. We got a phone call from from hospital. They said, can you come over from Berry Hospital, Lahore? And when we reached, it says DNR, so do not resuscitate. And I asked doctor, what does it mean? And patient was on the bed. He said, don't ask me in here. And he told me that this patient is, after that, he told me the patient was about to die. And they said, don't try to even put all the stuff that they put, try to recover the patient. That does DNR means. And we put our machine on the patient, and we treated her for 4 to 6 hours on the first day. And we treated her another 4 to 6 hours on the next day. And next day, she walked out of the hospital and she gave us the victory sign. That was the happiest day. And that's what matters. We believe do the right thing. Money will follow, success will follow. And that's what ISNA is. ISNA is doing the right things over and over years, and the many organizations like out there who do the right thing. Either you're for profit or you're not for profit. Just have a conscious, just have your moral values. And I can tell you, we got money investment offers, big offers. We declined that. Frank, we declined an offer last week or so, right? Big one. You remember
it's really hard to say no to $6 million. It truly is. But when it's the right thing to do, it's the right thing to do, period. By the way, that patient that Farouk was talking about, when she came into the hospital, she was in a coma. So our treatment fixed her kidneys up good enough to proceed and got her out of a coma. I think that's a big deal.
Yeah, so they medically, she was not conscious at all. So I don't know, medically they call it coma or whatever they call it, but she was not responding to anything. And I saw the patient, and she was not. And then this was not the first case, and there was another case, and we were able to save multiple lives. And this is the tip of the iceberg. There's a lot of work has to be done. We have to get out there, and not only we are doing this. On the flip side, we are opening an office in Chicago where we are thinking of developing new treatments altogether, new innovation. That a lot of treatments out there are 30-year-old treatments. And we are hiring the best of the best here in US and in Boston area, that and we're meeting the best nephrologist, that why we treat this patient this way, why you have been doing this for the last 30 years, why haven't thought in a different way? Like 747 was invention of 1969. We haven't developed a better plane since then, anything significant. But similarly, in the medical, we have to push our limits, and we have some big, awesome provisional patents coming up, where we will not only serve this patient, but we will bring in new treatments all together to serve mankind in a better way. But at the end of the day, I would still say, eat healthy, less salt, less sugar. Don't be our customer. Right, Frank?
Absolutely.
So this is where I would like to stop, and I would like to say that we were approached for ISNA this is not to raise money or anything. This is just to inspire young people like you to get out of your comfort zone. And it can be charity, it could be volunteer time, and we volunteer time before this for other charities, or it could be your own venture. And just keep one thing in mind, it doesn't have to be a non-profit. It could be for-profit company. Our mission, Frank and I said, our best service to humanity is we do charge, but don't charge $25,000, charge $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 per machine. And the problem of cost of the machine, if we can use our brains to bring the cost down to 10x, 15x, and still have a little bit of margin and sell it to millions. So it's a service that you do to the millions where people want to pay you, but your margin doesn't have to be like crazy, which is like killing people. But it can be a lot of sales across multiple countries. So we have a friend who's from India. He's investing. He wants to take this technology to India. We have people interest from Bangladesh. And we are a US corporation to begin with, but we have a plan to make small margins, but sell millions. And that's how we can sustain itself. It's a self-sustaining, it's a for-profit company, but a company with conscience, a company with innovation, a company with passion to serve people who need these machines at 1/8 or 1/10 of the price, and make it available and bring it newer innovations, newer technologies on top of that. So that's what we are. Right, Frank, you want to say last few words before I wrap this up?
Well, looking forward, we're already a success as far as I'm concerned. But our biggest problem may end up being our success because we're just a small company. And when you think about the enormity of the task, 8 million people every year, that's a big job, and it's a little daunting, but I just know that we're on the right track.
Yeah, we will get there, Frank. We will get there. So you remember when we started this, everybody said you were crazy and nuts. How can you treat a patient with this budget? So we got to this point, we'll get there too. So thank you to Mukhtar Ahmed and Azhar Aziz for this session, and thank you for invitation. And reach out to us if you have any question, if you need any help or mentorship, and thank you for your time. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
Our next speaker is Dr. Suhail M. Imraz. Dr. Imraz is an assistant professor of HR at the David O'Malley College of Business, Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University. Prior to his academic career, he had almost 20 years of professional experience in HR and IT. He is interested in two broad research areas: human resource organizational development and IT service management. In the area of human resource organizational development, he has completed many projects and conducted research on leadership development, competency models, social network analysis, and team building. He is also interested in topics such as knowledge management, talent management and succession planning, employee engagement and retention, and data analytics in HR. In the area of ITSM, his past projects include various ITIL processes, information security risk management, and professional online communities. His latest books are case studies on contemporary practices in management and HR, published in 2020, and organization development interventions, executing effective organizational change, which is IMPRESS. The topic is ethical organizations and corporate social responsibility. Please welcome Dr. Suhail M. Imraz.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. My name is Suhail Imraz, and I am an assistant professor of human resource management at Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University, located in Daytona Beach, Florida. I appreciate Islamic Society of North America for giving me this opportunity to make this presentation. And let us go ahead and get started. I have created a short PowerPoint slides for you. So let me share my screen with you first. All right. So the subject of my presentation today is ethical organizations and corporate social responsibility. Very important topic for today's business organizations. So here is the outline of my presentation. It's divided into 5 sections. The first part would be defining ethics. In the second section, we'll talk about some examples of corporate ethical behaviors. In the third section, we'll look at the theory of moral development. In the fourth section, we'll talk about some ethical approaches and guidelines to help us making ethical choices. And lastly, we'll talk about corporate social responsibility. So there are many definitions of ethics, and I have listed just 3 definitions here. But if you read these definitions carefully, you will find out that they all have few common elements, and I have highlighted them in red. Morality, principles, beliefs, values. These elements, in turn, lead to the need for personal integrity and trust in our character. Simply stating, these elements lead us to believe that we will act ethically if we do not exploit an opportunity for self-enrichment at the expense of others. Now, most highly successful people are ethical and acting And acting ethically has many rewards, both at a personal level and organizational level. Researchers have found that honest people have fewer mental and physical health complaints, less anxiety, better social interactions, so forth. Unethical behavior can be extremely costly. Think about the Enron incident back in 2002. The act of unethical action was lack of integrity in accounting practices. Again, think of the financial crisis we all experienced back in 2007, 2008, where the unethical behaviors included subprime lending, easy credit conditions, predatory lending, weak and fraudulent underwriting practices, so forth. So they all had components of unethical corporate behaviors. And those unethical practices led to a massive recession in the economy. So there has been an urgent call, an urgent need for more ethical business practices worldwide. To improve ethics, business schools have doubled the number of ethics-related business courses in their curriculum. And understanding these common elements of ethics should help us behave more ethically, both at a personal and corporate levels. In this slide, I have listed some examples of corporate ethical behavior. Costco, for example, raised its base wage for their employees from $13 an hour to $14 an hour back in 2018, and again to $15 an hour in 2019. In contrast, during that time frame, the average retail workers in US made between $7.25 an hour to $9 an hour. Another example would be existing workers in Volkswagen's German operations will not face layoffs for 10 years, according to a report by Associated Press. Another example would be CVS stopped selling cigarettes and other tobacco-related products back in 2014. Interestingly, CVS has been doing well since it quit selling tobacco. They reported a gross profit of more than $23 billion in 2014 before stopping selling the tobacco products, and a gross profit of more than $31 billion in 2018. So worked out pretty well for them. Other companies like Chick-fil-A and McDonald's also demonstrated similar examples of ethical behavior. Chick-fil-A pays for employee educations and McDonald's invest in employee skills and animal rights. So all of these are examples of corporate ethical behavior. In this slide, we'll talk about a very important theory of moral development to help us better understand some of the contributing factors of unethical behavior. So this theory was proposed by Lawrence Kohlberg, and moral development refers to distinguishing right from wrong and choosing to do the right thing. So according to Kohlberg, there are 3 levels of personal moral development: pre-conventional, conventional, and post-conventional levels. In the pre-conventional level, a person chooses right and wrong behavior based on self-interest and the likely consequences of the behavior, reward or punishment. So in this pre-conventional level, a person thinks it's all about me. I will take advantage of you to get what I want. Let me give you an example. If a salesperson lies to a customer to sell a product and get a huge commission, they are operating in the pre-conventional level of moral development. In the conventional level, people seek to maintain expected standards and live up to expectations of others. Most people are on this level and do as the others in their group do. They easily give in to peer pressure and to act ethically or unethically. For example, if a salesperson lies to customer to sell more products because the other sales representatives also lie too, then they are operating in the conventional level of moral development. In the post-conventional level, people make an effort to define moral principles for themselves, regardless of leaders or group ethics. They do the right thing. For example, if a sales rep refuses to lie to sell more products because they know that lying is unethical, then they are operating at the post-conventional level of moral development. There is a very important point to remember here. People can be on different level for different issues and situations. So the theory of moral development is very important in understanding some of the contributing factors why people act ethically or unethically. In this slide, we'll talk about some ethical approaches or guidelines to help us make better decisions. There are many ethical approaches or guidelines to help us make ethical choices. Here I have presented two, the golden rule approach and the four-way test. Most successful people live by golden rules like these, and they can be found in virtually every religious textbook and scriptures in the world. Following the golden rules like these will help us act ethically and make the world a better place to live. One of the world's most widely printed and quoted statements of business ethics is the four-way test, which was created in 1932 by the Rotarian Herbert J. Taylor. Originally, the four-way test was a non-partisan and non-sectarian ethical guide for Rotarians to use for their personal and professional relationships. The test has been translated into more than 100 languages, and Rotarians recite it at club meetings. Of the things we think or say or do, is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better relationships? Will it be beneficial to everyone concerned? Aside from these two approaches, there is another approach called stakeholders approach to ethics. This approach tries to create win-win results for all stakeholders affected by the decision. If you are comfortable telling people who are affected by your decision what you have decided, it is probably ethical. And if you want to hide your decision from those who are affected by your decision, then your decision is probably unethical. This approach was put forth by Warren Buffett at Berkshire Hathaway, known as one of the most ethical organizations in business today. So in this slide, let's talk about the concept of corporate social responsibility. The concept of corporate social responsibility says that organizations have a duty to all societal stakeholders to operate in a manner that takes each of their needs into account. In other words, companies need to look at their effects on society and all corporate stakeholders, not just the shareholders. Companies should provide employees with safe working conditions and with adequate pay and benefits. Companies should provide safe products and services to customers. For society, the company should improve the quality of life, or at least not destroy the environment. The company is expected to compete fairly with competitors and work with suppliers in a cooperative manner. It should abide by the laws and regulations of government. At the same time, the company must provide shareholders with reasonable profit. Without profit, it is difficult to be socially responsible after all. Now, there are three levels of corporate social responsibility. The first level is legal corporate social responsibility. The second level is ethical, and the third level is benevolent corporate social responsibility. So let's start from the bottom. The legal CSR focuses on maximizing profits while obeying the law. It focuses on increasing sales and cutting costs to maximize returns to stakeholders. In dealings with market stakeholders, these firms meet all of their legal responsibilities, such as fulfilling contract obligations, providing legally safe products while honoring guarantees and warranties. They do what it takes to beat the competition legally. In dealing with non-market stakeholders, for example, society and the government, they obey all the laws and regulations, such as not polluting more than the legal limits and meeting all OSHA standards. Philip Morris and Remington and other brands sell cigarettes and guns that are legal, but some people question their ethics of the business. The second level is ethical corporate social responsibility. They focus on profitability and doing what is right, just and fair. Providing ethical leadership and avoiding questionable practices mean doing more than what is required in dealing with the market stakeholders, such as treating employees right and paying them fair wages, providing safer products, not squeezing the suppliers, and competing to win business ethically. These companies meet reasonable societal expectations and exceed government laws and regulations to be just and fair to stakeholders. Remember the example of CVS I just presented earlier in the presentation, when they voluntarily decided not to sell tobacco-related products or cigarettes. That would be an example of a company operating at the ethical corporate social responsibility. The third level of corporate social responsibility is benevolent CSR, which focuses on profitability and helping society through philanthropy, often referred to as giving back. This highest level of corporate social responsibility is also called good corporate citizenship. Benevolent firms are philanthropic, giving gifts of money or other resources to charitable causes. Employees are expected, encouraged, and rewarded for being active volunteers in the community, often on company time. In addition to giving corporate money, many rich entrepreneurs set up foundations and give their own money. Facebook founder Mark Zuckerberg plans to give away 99% of his Facebook stock. So that would be an example of benevolent corporate social responsibility. In conclusion, we talked about the following things in this video. For example, we defined ethics and common elements of ethics, which would be morality, principles, beliefs, and values. We shared some examples of ethical and unethical corporate behavior. Then we looked at the theory of moral development, which has 3 levels: pre-conventional, conventional, and post-conventional. We also talked about 3 ethical approaches or guidelines: golden rule, 4-way test, and stakeholder approach. Lastly, we looked at corporate social responsibility and the 3 levels of demonstrating such responsibility: legal, ethical, and benevolent. I hope this discussion will help us in acting more ethically, both at a personal and corporate level. These are the references I have used in this presentation. And lastly, for any question or comments, I can be reached at, I have provided my email address. I would highly appreciate any question you may have on this presentation, or if you'd like to share with your comments about the presentation. Again, I thank Islamic Society of North America for giving me this opportunity to talk about such an important topic in today's business. and I appreciate your time. Thank you very much.